Well, what is up, everybody? Thank you for hopping on to the CloseSimple webinar here. I have a very special guest with me. What's up, Dr. Cindy McGovern?
Hey, Bill, how are you?
Doing awesome. You made me aware of this. It is actually National Cardigan Day today. So you have your cardigan on. I am a slacker. I'm wearing my normal black button-down shirt here. Feel very underdressed on a day like today. First off, though, thanks for hopping on with me, Cindy. This is amazing. We got a lot of people hopping on here.
It is absolutely my pleasure. I was so excited to be a part of this. Yes.
So I just want to kind of set the stage for everybody that's on this call today. Cindy, we have our biggest audience ever. We have over 200 people that registered for this. That's huge. That's huge. When we set this up a few months ago, I was like, hey, let's get this thing. You got a book coming out in a few months. Could we get, kind of something for our audience here? Could we give them a little taste of something? And you're like, yes. And I was just like, we got to fill this thing up. We got to get it. And this is a record day. So Cindy, we're bringing our A game on this webinar here. It's going to be awesome. 25-minute action packed. I hope everybody comes, rolling their sleeves up. Notepad ready to go, taking notes. If any of you are new to the CloseSimple webinar series here, one of our big things that we really try to do is take things that might otherwise seem complicated and make them simple. Today, what we really want to dig into is 2020 planning for growth. I mean, believe it or not, Dr. Cindy, next year it's 2020. 2020.
Can't believe it.
It seems,
it's here.
It is here. But what we really want to talk about in terms of growth is just this. How do we turn every job in somebody's title company into a sales job? The name of your book, I got it right here. Every job is a sales job. This is amazing. Underline this thing. I was telling you before we hopped on here, amazing job with this. I got to know you as you've been writing this book, and it is incredible. So over the next 25 minutes, what we're really going to do, we're going to dig into this. We don't want to give away everything in the book, but I really just kind of want to set this up for if people are planning for growth in the new year. How do they turn every job in their title company into a sales job? So by the end of it, everybody's going to have a few takeaways from it. We always, after these webinars, I love hearing what people think about this. If you do get good notes, take a picture of the notes, email me, bill@closesimple.com. I'd love to see the takeaways. I'll forward these to Dr. Cindy, and I'll give away some sort of a little gift card to the one I think is best. Because I always like feeling like these webinars, it's not just us filling time, it's us doing it, you getting notes, applying it, and seeing where we go together. So Dr. Cindy, let's get right into this here. Before we even dig into the book, let's start with just this. I just want to find out about you. I think our audience here, like I said, we got over 200 people logged in for this webinar today. A lot of these people have never heard the name Dr. Cindy McGovern. So could you just give a little background on what brings you to today, your book, the whole thing? Who is Dr. Cindy McGovern?
Yeah. So first of all, again, thank you so much for having me. I'm just beyond thrilled to be a part of this. I'm a big fan of the CloseSimple team and the product. I mean, the software is just amazing. So I started my career as a college professor, and I thought that's what I was supposed to do. That's the doctor part. And fast forward, ended up doing consulting, and then found myself in a sales job and went, oh my God, I'm going to get fired because I can't do sales.
Yeah.
And then I started realizing sales is something I had been doing my whole life. I just didn't call it sales. And so I found a way to make it work for me. And I went, well, wait a second. If I can do this, anybody can do this. I'm not a salesperson. I always thought it was sort of the, Johnny Two Thumbs, the used car sales guy thing. And I'm like, that's so not me. But when I realized that I could do this, I was like, I need to help other people be able to do this. And if I had learned the fact that every job really is a sales job when I graduated from college, my whole life would have been different. I would have probably asked for more raises. I would have really put myself out there in different ways than I did because I just didn't realize that. And so that's what brought me to write the book. I thought, okay, I've got to get this word out there because this is the class that nobody's getting. And whether you get it in high school, whether you get it in college, you should be learning this. This is a life skill, not just a business skill. So that's where I came from. That's what brought me to write the book. And now I'm really hoping that it's starting to help people to get what they want in work and life.
Very cool. And you've been very active in the land title community also. You have a lot of clients that have used your consulting services. I've seen you speak in the title industry. You were one of the first faces that I really recognized on a national level when Paul, my co-founder, and I got into this. And it's really cool to see like where you've taken your career, like where this topic has taken you. As I was reading your book, the big takeaway that I had was just, we all sell all the time. We all sell all the time. You just said it there kind of in your intro, but I love how in your book you talk about it, how like no matter what we're doing in life, we're always selling. When you were a professor, you were selling. What were you selling when you were a professor?
Trying to get kids to actually learn public speaking at 8 a.m. on a Monday.
Yes, and that is hard.
Yeah, trying to get them to just pay attention and want to care about the class too. I mean, we're all selling, and regardless of even that, you're selling your personal brand all day, every day as well. So that's the thing that I think we forget is we're selling ourselves. Even if you're not selling a product or service or whatever, it's you. You're giving an image of who you are and what are you putting out in the world, and is it what you mean to?
Exactly. So let's hop into this. Like I said, in your book, you outline 5 big keys to selling, turning every job in your company into a sales job, kind of the mindset. Now, on this webinar today, I don't want to give away every one of these 5 things. I don't want you to dig in and really just, spread ourselves too thin. I'd love to focus on just 2 of the things you talked about in the book, planning and really looking for opportunities, the first 2 big pillars that you outline. Let's start there with planning. And, everybody after this webinar, they should go out and buy your book on Amazon or actually on your site, because you're going to be giving away a really good promo code on your site that they can have. But, there's 3 things we're not going to talk about today on the webinar, but we're just nailing these first 2 topics. Let's start with planning. If we're going to talk about 2020 coming up in how many days is it? Like less than 2 months from now, 2020 hits us. Planning seems like a great place to start. So let's start there. In your book, you talk about Ben the HVAC guy. Ben the HVAC guy. And I love how this story really sets up the rest of the book. We're going to talk about planning, but Ben sets this topic up. Quick, give everybody kind of the background on Ben, your HVAC guy.
So it's so funny because, this book is filled with life stories, whether they were mine or a friend or something, but they're all true stories. And so Ben was this HVAC guy that came to fix our air conditioner in DC when I was living there a couple of years ago. And when he showed up, I had mentioned something else had gone wrong with sort of the heater boiler thing. And he was like, oh, well, do you mind if I take a look at that? And it didn't occur to me until after he walked out, but I was like, he just sold me. Like he upsold me on actually, but I didn't feel like I had been being sold to, like at all. In fact, it was really nice. He was very polite. He wore like the little booties to cover his work boots when he was climbing up in the attic. Like he was great. And what was funny is it struck me and I went, Ben doesn't see himself as a salesperson, but he completely just sold me because he established trust with me. Mm-hmm. He actually saw, that's the looking for opportunities. He saw an opportunity to help me. But if you ask Ben, he's not going to tell you he's a sales guy. He's going to tell you he's an HVAC technician. He's going to tell you tell you that he was just doing his job or he was being nice to a customer. And that's what I want people to walk away with is they look at every job truly being a sales job. It's not like you're stopping everything and going to do sales. That's not it. It's probably part of what you're doing all day, every day. You call it being nice. You call it customer service. You call it something else, but it is sales. And if you take it that one step further to really be able to say, okay, this is an opportunity to ask for a referral. Or Ben could have even said, hey, do you have any neighbors that need any HVAC help? Then you really are able to grow your business. And I work so much with title companies. You mentioned that my consulting firm specializes in working with title companies. And right now we are doing planning with all of them. Like right now is strategic planning time and looking at that. And this is a huge part of the discussion is, does everybody in your organization know that they're in sales? And if they don't, why? Because if they come in contact with a customer, they're in sales.
Yeah. So let's actually dig into that topic right there. You know, we have owners, we have managers, escrow officers, closers, receptionists, the whole list of people that work at title companies on this webinar today. can we maybe break it down very tactically? Like, what does sales look like in those roles? Can you maybe give everybody just one takeaway? If we have an owner that's watching this, what can they go to the escrow officers, the closers, the receptionists and say, I just watched this awesome webinar with the CloseSimple crew and this lady, Dr. Cindy McGovern, she said, fill in the blank, this is what I want to do. Like, let's just break it down to those specific roles. What do you think some action points and takeaways for each of those roles could be?
Love it. So this is what we do all day with our clients. So the first thing is, for the owner, you've got to set the pace for that. So if you're in ownership, leadership, whatever, you've got to set the pace, and you're sort of creating that culture with your team to let them know that they are good at sales because they got a job interview and they got a job, so they sold you.
Yep.
And then the second piece is empowering them to feel like they can make someone's day. And that's really part of the planning piece is, does your team know that they can go over and beyond the call of duty? Does your team know that they can do this? Or are you expecting them to instinctively just do it because you know how to do it? Common sense is not common practice. So for the owner,
right,
a lot of it is you sort of setting that example and showing them, hey, like there's a story in the book that you probably got to, the grocery store I used to work at, where the owner would literally drop everything and go and help a customer. That was very clear, and that was really what we were supposed to do. If a customer walked in the door, you stopped whatever you were doing and you went straight to that customer. So as the owner, are you setting that? And then for your escrow officers, this is one of my favorites, like escrow officers, paralegals, anybody that's in contact with the file on a day-to-day basis. Guys, they're in sales. Every call is a sales call. I cannot say that enough. That's going to be written on my tombstone. Like every call
is the sales call.
It really is. Because every interaction with a customer is an opportunity to make their day or tick them off. And we forget that, and we sort of put them on autopilot. And so do your closers, your escrow officers, your processors, your pre-processors, do they recognize that that interaction, ever how brief it may be, is an opportunity to deepen a relationship? And if they don't, that's the discussion. And then the third one you asked about was a receptionist. Oh my gosh, this is the best salesperson you have. This is your, director of first impressions.
Quick, before you even talk about the receptionist, do you think a lot of title companies that you consult view their receptionist that way? Do they view their receptionist as the best salesperson they got?
You know what? I think they view them as a service person. I don't think they view them as a salesperson. And I think there's a big difference. I think service is an expectation. And I think I expect the receptionist to greet me nicely and say nice things to me and get me a cup of coffee. What I don't expect is when they go over and beyond the call of duty. What I don't expect is them to stand up, walk around the desk, greet me, walk me to the closing room, like the red carpet kind of approach. And I think if we're not recognizing that for what it is, we are missing the boat. That person is the person that the consumer is coming in contact with. We forget the consumer is absolutely your client, and they're the ones that actually pay us. And, I'm a big fan of advocating for the consumer and making sure they know who we are and what we do, but they're the one that's going to go Yelp you. They're the one that's going to do a Google review on you. So that receptionist is kind of in control of their customer experience. But if he or she doesn't know that and doesn't recognize that for what it is, it's just another transaction coming in the door. It's another person that's going to go sit and sign a bunch of papers and then go home. So I think we have to, as leaders and owners, really set the stage for those conversations and make sure our team knows that this is part of our plan. This is who we are. This is what we do. And then that second piece is looking for those opportunities. And like one more quick thing on the receptionist, a lot of times they'll have kids with them. And this is just an easy thing for the receptionist. But if they've got kids with them, they've got a screaming kid, they're holding a baby, they're trying to get in the closing room. Do you have crayons? Like, do you have something for the kids to do? It's the easiest thing on the planet, but how many offices really have that? Or how many receptionists actually acknowledge the child? How many receptionists say, oh, good morning to you too? You would be surprised how much that goes to really experiencing, to helping them have a better experience with us. And I think once again, it's the pace car that's set by the owner. So does your team know they're supposed to be doing it?
And crayons is such a small thing. Like everybody watching this today could go out to the store and buy. You can even just go to Amazon.com, buy Cindy's book and buy a bunch of crayons, But I love that because it really demystifies the sales process. You really talked in the book about planning, going into every interaction with the customer, knowing about the objective you want to get out of it, really planning for them to say yes. And you say it like, if you're not asking for the sale, you're not going to get the sale. So let's talk about just that. Like, you talked in the book about the lunch call, like how we should view sales as really a lunch meeting, a lunch appointment, getting that on your calendar. Let's unpack that a little bit here. Why is sales like a lunch call?
Because it's an opportunity for you to engage with somebody like you would over lunch. Like, think about when you go to lunch, what's your objective? It's to catch up with a friend or to, help a friend with a problem that they're having. There's an interaction that's creating a relationship. It's really just deepening that. Well, what's your goal when you have a sales call? Do you have one? And I think a lot of title companies that we work with, they measure the wrong stuff when it comes to sales and lunch calls. Like, they'll measure, you need to have 10 lunch appointments this week. Well, my question is why? What's the goal of those lunch appointments? Is it to bring in business? I mean, measure the right thing. So if the goal is to bring 5 new appointments, great, have 5 lunch appointments. If the goal is to bring in 5 new deals, does it have to be over lunch? Maybe, maybe not. So it's looking at the way that you're measuring the expectations that you have of your team, but not being afraid of that interaction. And I want to also just underscore that planning piece with regard to a lunch or something like that. Anybody in your organization can do this. They're people. I mean, that's the business we're in. This is a relationship business. And truth be told, your escrow officers and your processors are kind of the rock stars in your organization, even if you have sales folks. They're the ones that people want to see. So don't hide them behind the file. It's kind of like if you have a kid and they see their teacher at Target and then they're like, oh my gosh, it's Mr. So-and-so. It's the same thing. The escrow officer is the rock star. So get them out from behind the desk, get them out and show them and prepare them for a successful lunch conversation, which is really just deepening that relationship. Let them know the goal is to walk out of there, making that agent feel like a rock star and maybe getting another deal.
So something that you said kind of a few minutes ago was just that for the owner especially, they've already been sold by the people that work there. They did a great job selling themselves to the owner why they deserve to work at that title company. I think a great takeaway right off the bat for every owner or manager or somebody who has people working under them, if they're going to get this sales in your job kind of mindset, is you already sold me. Now take that confidence and sell somebody out there. You did it once, you can do it again. It just demystifies it. You've done a great job of just kind of laying that out for people, I think. I want to ask you one more thing on the planning. What were you going to say?
No, I was going to say, it goes even beyond that with regard to when they sell. I mean, if you've ever gotten your kid to clean their room or eat a vegetable, you're in sales. It's the same skill set. So I think if the owners are trying to get buy-in from their team and help them to feel comfortable selling, remind them that they're doing it all day. They're just not calling it that.
I like that. I mean, that's something very easy for everybody watching to go we're already doing it, team. You get your staff meeting next Monday morning, and this is a real good rally cry. You already sold me as the owner or the manager. You sold yourself coming in here. Now, this is every day. You're already doing it. Let's just put a name to this, I want to ask this question. As we were preparing for this webinar too, we were talking about specifically 2020 planning. You do this with a lot of title companies. And often you get the person in the boardroom and they plan for where they want to go in the new year. Something that you said to me that really stuck out was look backwards at 2019, look at the deals you did get, and then just ask, why did I get those? What worked? Why did I get it? And what does that mean for next year? Let's unpack that a little before we go into your second point, the looking for opportunities. Talk about that.
So for the folks, and this is, one of my favorite things is I'm a planaholic. I really believe in it. I think it's something we should all be doing, and I live and die by my plan. But part of it is we have to look backwards to go forward, like you said, and it's looking at what worked this year. Why did that business come in the door? Who brought it? Where did it come from? And why are they staying? And we can't necessarily just assume it's going to come in next year too. Look at what the activities were that brought you the most business. And I think especially in the title business, we become very loyal to things that we've always done. We always sponsor the golf tournament. Okay, that's fine. Is your return on investment still there? Or are you paying a lot of money to sponsor the 7th hole to see the same 3 people that you see every other week? Really look at that backwards piece to go forward. Look at the things that you did that brought in more business. You might find the fact that it had nothing to do with events. It had nothing to do with, dropping off goodies. It was the fact that your people were asking for more business when they hung up the phone. Your escrow officers were asking for more business. They were asking for referrals. Like, look at that and really go backwards so that you can see how to plan. And I'll just give you a quick story. Like, we've been doing a lot of social media as part of the book promotion, and I fell in love with this one video campaign we did, and it wasn't producing. And I was like, well, why isn't this actually producing results? I love this campaign. And it's like, it wasn't resonating. So we went backwards. We looked at the campaigns that were producing, and we went, well, then let's do more like that. And so we shifted, and then all of a sudden we got back up to 40,000 views. So if we hadn't gone backwards, we would have just kept on going and going, okay, well, why isn't this working? Why isn't this working? So as you're doing your 2020 planning in that boardroom, really examine it. And I would include your teams too, especially in the title business, because I think a lot of times the strategic plan ends in the boardroom, and it shouldn't. It's like, we need to make sure the teams know what the plan is and what their role is in executing that plan every day, because it's like a football team, right? Everybody has a role on the team, even the folks sitting on the bench waiting for their turn. Everybody's got a role. Do they know exactly what it is when it comes their time?
Yeah.
And if they don't,
that makes sense.
You got to get them there.
Love that. Let's shift now. We've talked a lot about the planning. Your second point in the book is looking for opportunities. And you said it's really just being attentive and creating moments that matter, creating moments that really create a customer for life. Start unpacking that for us. We got basically, again, we have all these escrow officers, managers, owners, receptionists, a lot of different people on here. Let's talk about that idea of just being attentive, though. What does that actually look like? I love how in your book, you simplify everything in your book to like the most basic level. So let's just start there. What does being attentive look like?
So it's looking up from your phone and paying attention to what's around you at the basic level. I mean, it's so
easy,
interesting, but we are so mired in it. And I think even in the title business, we're mired in this file, or we're mired in the fact that I got to get this from you, Bill. So when I get on the phone with you, I'm going to say, hey, Bill, it's Cindy over at Brand X. I just need you to get this driver's license so that I can get this done. Pause. Yeah. Good morning. How you doing, Bill? Letting them know that they're a human and you're a human and you're having this interaction, and it's looking for those opportunities. But without a good plan, it's hard to look for those too. And so, you've got to have the plan to let those spidey senses go up so that you can say, oh, wait a second, this person needs my help. That person's got kids. That's a screaming baby. I got crayons. Yeah. Boom, superhero, So
the crayons.
Yeah.
Well, that's
so
what
helping them to know that.
Ben, your HVAC guy did that. He came to your house to do one thing. The plan was really, I know I can do these other things at my company. This is the protocol. And hey, would you like me to do that? It was easy. He was attentive. He heard what you said. He goes, I can do that also. It's easy.
I think we don't listen. It's totally easy, but I think we don't listen. I really don't think we listen. But if you have a good plan, you actually can retrain your brain to look for things. And there's a psychological syndrome. I talk about it in the book. It's called the blue car syndrome, where when you buy a blue car, you start noticing them everywhere. Well, when you look to create moments that matter for clients and you know what you're looking for, you start to see them. It's like, I don't know if you and I are shoe folks, right? You love your shoes. I love my shoes. So when you get your mind set on that one pair of shoes, it's like you start noticing everybody's boots everywhere trying to find them. That's what you want your team doing. So the owners listening today, what are they looking to do? Do they know what they're supposed to be watching for? Do they know what they're supposed to be keeping an eye out for? And if they don't, that's part of the conversation that you need to have with them, because they're not going to take advantage of those moments that matter if they don't know what they're supposed to see.
I always think about in title, you can go from getting the file to closing the file. If you're in business today, you better do that on time, accurately, those things. But it's how are you doing it along the way? We could all go outside when we get to an airport. We could call a taxi, or we could call an Uber, and we know where it's at. We can know every turn. We know how much it's going to cost. It's those things. You can either go through the motions, or you can create something that creates an emotion. And that's the big difference. I want to kind of talk about one thing here. I love your New York City bracelet story. I think this epitomizes the idea of not just going from point A to point B, but really creating a moment that matters, what that sales girl did or actually like didn't do. Can you give everybody just that kind of story? And then we're going to kind of wrap it up here in just a couple minutes.
So I think this one actually is a really good one to translate to title, even though it's a retail story, because it's about the fact that this was a routine transaction for that lady, but to me, it was a really big deal. So you got to think about that. In title, this is one of 30 files on your desk. It's just one more thing. But to them, this is the only time in probably the next 5 to 7 years they're going to do this. So it's a big deal. Yep. Are you creating a moment that matters? Are you helping them to feel special? So the story was, my husband was very sweet, bought me a beautiful bracelet, but it wasn't just a bracelet. He made a big deal about it. He took me to New York. We went to my favorite restaurant, La Durée. We went ice skating in Central Park. We went to the Plaza for champagne. And then we go to the store to get this. And anybody watching and listening today, it's a place where you go and things come very nicely wrapped in a box with a very nice little bow on it. And so we tell the lady we're there to pick it up, and she brings it out, rips off the bow, opens the box, takes it out of the velvet pouch and hands it to me. And I was just like, that's exactly
what in the world?
I'm like, huh. And for the first time in my life, I was speechless. And my poor husband's over here going, she's going to blow. Like, she's going to blow. And,
speechless for the wrong reason.
Yes. And I'm like, I'm holding it. And I'm like, and she goes, is there something wrong? And I'm like, you totally blew this, lady. Like, and I was so taken aback by it. But it was an interesting story. And that's why I wanted it in the book, because to her, it was another routine transaction. It wasn't a huge one. It was, I'm sure the person next to me was buying like a Birkin bag or something, like it wasn't a big deal. But
this was an important one. It was a big deal for your husband to do all the planning. It was a big purchase, the big surprise. And then this happened. Yeah.
And she blew it. She totally blew it. And what's funny is, I do think in title, we forget that. We run the relay race of getting the file done. Are we pausing to think about the different sides of the transaction and how this matters to them? What are the moments that matter for each of the different sides? Like, really quick, and I know we don't have much time, but like even the realtor, the fact that they're opening an order with you, do you know how long it took them to get that? Like, they worked on that for months before it even gets to our hands. Are we celebrating that, or are we like sending them a nice little email that says, yay, you? Like, give them a celebration, something, send a video, make a call, and then keeping them informed. Like, you guys do an amazing job of that with like the pizza tracker. Like, that's service. That's a way for them to look good to their customer. But unless we're having that dialogue with them of how they're creating moments that matter and what matters to them, we leave it on the table. So I would encourage like everybody on today's webinar, look at what those moments that matter are and plan for them, and make sure everybody on your team knows what they're supposed to do in those moments.
One thing we actually just started doing here at CloseSimple is I told our entire staff, whenever you get an email from a customer praising what we're doing in the onboarding or anything, like, you guys are doing a great job, I want you to print that off. I want you to bring it to our Tuesday meeting, and we're going to hang it on the wall. And I want to actually celebrate that. Same thing, when our customers get an email from their customers about, I love this pizza track, or thanks for all the text updates. I want our people to get that email from our customer so that we can put that on our wall, because they're when they win, we win. And it's just this culture of like, let's celebrate the wins. Like, let's create moments that matter. I love that, Cindy. Okay, let me ask you this. We're going to wrap up here. If there's one takeaway, if there's like one thing that you just love everybody on this webinar to really grab and be able to go, I got this out of listening to Dr. Cindy McGovern talk about every job is a sales job. I did this whole webinar. The one takeaway that you want to leave everybody with, what would you say that is?
It's the fact that they sell and they're successful at it already. They just don't call it that. I am on a mission, Bill, to change the way that people look at the word sales. Like, we might need a new word by the time I'm done, because I really want people to recognize it for what it is, which is, it's a life skill. Should have been taught to us in high school, but in fact, your people do this already. They just don't call it that. So know that they can be successful at this. Know that you can encourage them to do it even more effectively, more efficiently, to grow your book of business, but that they're great at it already.
Love it. I want to read one little thing. It's actually on the last page of your book, kind of before we sign off here. I love what you said here. You said, now that you know how to sell, sell more, sell at work, sell at home. It works for me. It can work for anyone. It can work for you. And I think that's really just, testament to what we're trying to say here. If you're looking to plan for next year, it starts with a mindset. It starts with how we're going to go into next year. It starts with looking back and going, how did we get here? Let's actually magnify that. Let's not just reinvent the wheel. Let's do what works. Thank you so much for hopping on this. Let's say people want to get in touch with you. What's the best way? I know you said you have a promo code, things like that.
Yes.
Just give everybody that info.
So we've got a special promo code for your clients today. It's CloseSimple 2019. So if you go to drcindy.com and you buy the book there, just enter that in the promo code section and we'll email you a couple little bonus pieces. One is around planning and one's also a bonus chapter around personal branding that I think will help your owners to sort of get that buy-in from their team. So we're going to do that especially for the listeners from today's WebEx.
Love it. And you said, actually, you're giving away something on that you have never given away before. This is the first time you've done that. So that's what we get for getting over 200 people here signing up for this webinar. Guys, everybody, thank you for watching this. Everybody around the country, it's been a pleasure. If you're interested to reach out to Cindy, you can check out her website. What's the web domain again, Cindy?
So they can go to drcindy.com or they can go to orangeleafconsulting.com, either one.
Perfect. Cindy, thank you so much for being on this. It's been a pleasure. If anybody out there wants to reach out to her, you have her contact info. If you've been watching this webinar or any of our growth webinar series and you're interested in more about CloseSimple, feel free to reach out to me also, bill@closesimple.com. Again, if you've taken notes on this webinar, email them to me. I'd love to see what you took notes of. It always means a lot to know what you're getting out of this. And on top of that, I'm going to forward those right to Cindy so she knows what you're getting out of it. Wanted to let everybody know one thing also. Right now, through the end of November with CloseSimple, we're giving away actually 2 months of free service. You pay your setup, we get you up and running, and you get 2 months of CloseSimple free signing up by the end of November. We've never done this before, but kind of as we're thinking about 2020 planning, a lot of title companies look at this and they go, it's a big thing for us to actually plan, to get ahead of the ball, to do this. And one thing that we've seen is let's get you up and running and you're going to see results within the first month and 2 months, and it's going to be a no-brainer. So that's something also, if you're interested in more info on that, email me, bill@closesimple.com. Dr. Cindy, thank you so much for being on here. It's an absolute pleasure, and I can't wait to see you at the next title event. You want to say bye to everybody else?
I look forward to it. Yes, thank you guys so much, and thank you, Bill, for having me. It's an honor and a pleasure, and you know I'm a huge fan of you guys, so I'm very, very excited to partner with you on this. And as we say at Orange Leaf, grow big or go home, right?
Do it. Do it. We'll talk to you all soon. Thanks.